Hello everybody, this is Sherry from djsundry.blogspot.com, and it's time, or will be time in a few days, for my card exchange club to meet again. And so I just wanted to share with you the card that I'm making for that club. This month the theme is thank you notes, which goes along with Thanksgiving. So we'll get to the project in just a minute, but first I wanted to show you a couple of fun things that I found yesterday when I was at Michael's. K & Company has these layered accents, and they have them pretty much all the time, but this season they have this one. These are Susan Wright's. I don't see a name on them other than that, but these are, I'm looking forward to seeing these there, or using these different poinsettias and greenery and pine cones and holly berries. And so be watching out once I start doing Christmas stuff. And we'll see some tags or something with this. So I'm really looking forward to doing some fun things with these. Along with that, I don't know if you've seen these little tag pads before. Now all of these say to and from on, or some of them say to and from on them, and you could almost just make your Christmas tags with them. But these are very inexpensive, and they have several different kinds of them, and I've used them before and shown them on my blog before on other projects. But this is the Christmas one, and it matches these little stickers, or these adornments that I have. So be watching. We'll see if I can find some fun things to do with these. These are very inexpensive. These little tag pads are only $1.99. So just some fun things that I'll find some projects to use with those for Christmas. And along with that, when these were released last summer at CHA, and I saw them on Tim Holtz's blog, I knew that I wanted some, and I walked into Michael's, and lo and behold, they had them. These are the Muse Tokens, and you've seen me use Muse Tokens on other projects, usually on journals and those kind of things, but these are Christmas Muse Tokens. So all of the sayings have something to do with Christmas. There's season and Christmas and greetings and holiday, jingle, joyful, merriment, snowflake, tradition, Yuletide, wishes, and Santa Claus. So be watching. I'll be doing some fun projects with those when I start working on Christmas stuff. So now let's get to today's project of Christmas, or of thank you notes. And I am using, as a base, I'm going to be using just simple craft cardstock. I believe I purchased mine at Michael's or Joann's. I have been purchasing quite a lot of craft for some projects I have coming up, and I really like the way that they make fall cards. And then I'm also, from this Recollection Spice Market stack, I'm going to be using this green color. And I have to say, I really have enjoyed this Spice Market stack for making fall cards. I've used it a lot, and I really like it, and very inexpensive. The other paper that I'm using for this project is this Tim Holtz Coordination Distress Collection paper. This paper, if you haven't seen this before, it's got a craft color in the middle, so if you want to tear it, you can tear it and do fun things with it. I'm not tearing it for this project, but I am going to sand it, and it just makes a really neat effect. And I'm choosing a couple of colors in here, and I've actually already pulled them out. The one thing I don't like about this pad is there are 36 sheets, but they're every single one a different color, which is great for color variety, but I kind of wish I had a couple of some of them, because I ended up having to switch things around because I had to make so many for my card club. I will also, from Tim Holtz, be using this Thankful Backgrounds and Borders set, and you'll see how to do that from the alteration line. And then I'm using 2 sets of stamps for my sentiments. I am using, from K. Andrew Designs, I'm using the Scripture Saying stamps. I know you've seen these a lot, and that's because I use them a lot. I really like these stamps. The one I'm using today is I Thank My God Every Time I Remember You, Philippians 1:3. And this is, again, the Scripture Saying stamps. And I'll put a link on the blog, within the blog post, so you know right where you can get these stamps. Remember that these, a portion of every proceed goes to charity, and it's very important to Crystal at K. Andrew Designs that that they're made here in the United States. So she thinks it's important that we have jobs for people around, and so I think it's a great idea, and I love these stamps, the scripture sayings. Also, I'm using Halloween, which you've seen me use quite a lot, and the stamp I'm using here is Thankful, and this is also from K. Andrew Designs, and I'll also put a link to that. So let's get started on our card. Now, I decided to go ahead and pull the Cuttlebug out. Usually I already have this part done, but if some of you aren't familiar with the Cuttlebug, I wanted to show you how easy it is to use it and what neat effects you can do with it. So I've already cut my cardstock. This is, again, as I mentioned, the craft cardstock, and it's an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper cut in half and folded to make a 4 1/4 inch wide by 5.5 inch tall card. I then took that coordination paper, which is kind of smooth on one side and kind of textured on the other. So if I wanted to stamp on it, I would just stamp on the smooth side so that my stamp image would be nice and clean. But since I'm embossing on it, I'm going to use the textured side. So I'm going to use my A plate and both B plates, and I'm going to pull out this big saying here and just set this up. Now, this is just a little bit wider than my mat, so some of the letters are going to run off the edge. That's okay. I wish it was just a tad bit smaller, but if I hadn't cut it a little bit smaller, then it wouldn't have shown any of the craft underneath on the card base, and so I wanted that contrast. So unfortunately some of the letters are going to get cut off, but I'm going to sandwich that embossing plate with my paper underneath or in between, and sandwich it between my two B plates, and this is what I have. Now this says blessings, family, November, hope, thankful, faith, harvest, love, and autumn. So we'll just set that aside for now. And then I'm also going to be using something on the inside. Now, I don't know if you noticed or not, but these colors are just slightly different. Remember I said that I couldn't get a nice, there wasn't enough paper for me to do 8 of these all using one color. So they are a little bit different color, but that's okay. They're coordinating, and I'm using several different fall coordinating colors. And this one that I'm doing is just the pumpkin, and this is one of the little border from the same pack. So again, using my A plate, my 2 B plates, and I think probably some of that's off camera, but you'll see it come through, and sandwiching my paper inside my embossing folder and just winding it and twisting it right through the Cuttlebug. And we're all done with that. So let me just set that aside and get it out of our way. And now I want to do some distressing. Now this is, I'm using kind of a surprise color for this because my initial thought was, oh, I would use browns or something, have plenty of colors to choose from. But then I got to thinking about my seasonal distressings for the fall, and that's when I decided to use the seedless preserves. I know purple isn't something you would normally think of, and neither would I had it not come as part of this pack, but that's it did, and I really like the way it's turning out when I'm using it for fall projects. And besides that, of course, any excuse I can have for using purple is fine by me. I'm just simply inking the edges. I don't want to go too far in because I don't want too much of a contrast with the purple. I just want a light contrast here. And I'm inking all of my pieces. Now that inside border piece I cut at 4 1/4 or 4 inches wide by 1.5 inches tall, and that's the size of the inside piece, which also is the size that I did that green piece. Where did it go here? I'll have to see what I did with it. Oh, it's stuck to the bottom of my A plate. And this is going to be for the front of the card. And this is the one from that Spice Market pack. And you know, the purple doesn't look bad on it either. Again, I never would have thought of using purple on fall things or with green. Well, I like purple and green, but not quite like this. But I really like the way it's turning out. So we'll set that aside. Now there's another technique I want to do with these two embossed pieces. And I have my sander here from the Tim Holtz Ideology sander. And I just want to run it across the top, just lightly sanding the letters. And I'll show you what it does in just a minute. But because this is that distressed cardstock, and you could do it with cardstock that wasn't distressed, but this one is designed specifically for this. And what it does is it takes on the color in the middle. And I'll show that to you in just a minute. It also softens the paper a little bit. I was surprised at how much more pliable the paper becomes. But see, it just adds that extra coloring dimension to it, gives it a little bit of a shadowing effect. Now, of course, because I sanded it, I do want to wipe it off because it does leave a bit of a mess. Okay, so we have all of our pieces prepped, and now we're ready to put the card together. This is such a simple card. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out my ATG gun. Now, because these pieces are embossed, I am extra generous with the adhesive, because with all the different raising and the different textures in the paper, because of the embossing, it makes it a little more difficult for it to adhere to the paper. And I want to be sure that it's good and strongly adhered. So that's just the inside border, and this is where I'm going to use my first stamp. And this is where I'm going to put the scripture verse, I thank my God every time I remember you. And I'm just using a black stamp pad, and I did that off camera there. But then I'm just going to stamp it. Now I'm overlapping and actually using the edge of my emboss piece as a border line, so that you can just line it up so the Y in you just overlaps into the orange, and I like the way that effect is. So that's the front of the card, and while we have the ink out, let's go ahead and stamp, or the inside of the card, I'm sorry. And while we have the ink out, let's go ahead and stamp the sentiment for the front of the card on our green, which is the word thankful. And I want it kind of to the right, and we'll stamp that down, and there is that. So our stamping is done for this card. Just two simple stamps, but that really add to the card. Let me clean those stamps off, since it'll be a while before I get around to it. These stamps clean so beautifully. And I've used that thankful one, and actually I've used both of these a lot. And if you've been following the blog, you've seen that I've used both of these quite a lot, because I really have a lot of thank you notes I need to write. So now we have the inside of our card complete, as I mentioned before. Now let's move to the outside. Again, I want to be really generous with my adhesive, because this has so many ridges on the other side with the reverse side of that embossing, that I really need to be sure that I have a lot of adhesive down. Now, you could also maybe use some quick dry or some zip dry or some Tombow Mono or something like that if you wanted to, but I just wanted to use my ATG today. We only have a couple more steps and we'll be completely done with this simple card. I'm just going to adhere the stamped image piece. I would rather have too much adhesive and my card not fall apart in the mail, so that's why I'm being so generous with it. And I have miscut that one. Let's just trim it. I'll go ahead and trim that. Probably got enough ink here to just re-ink it there. There we go. Easy enough fix. Okay, and there we go. Now there's one more thing I want to show you that I did. I have these little off-white creamy color flowers from Recollections that I had just picked up at Michael's. And I have my homemade misting spray. This is Pueblo color. It's made by Folk Art, and then I mixed some Perfect Bronze, Perfect Pearls inside of it. And so I sprayed that flower with that so that it would coordinate with my project. And then I didn't think it had quite enough shimmer, and I don't know how much shimmer the camera actually picks up, but to add just a little more shimmer to it, I took my water Perfect Pearl mist that I have that doesn't add any color to it. It just adds a little bit of white shimmer to it. I guess that's a little bit of color. And so I just added that, so it kind of has just a subtle sparkle on it. And to adhere that to the front, I have just a couple of mini glue dots. Now, the first one I did, I used the larger glue dots, and it adheres very well, which you need for the bulk. But the problem with that is it also, it was big enough that it kind of would adhere the petals down to the base as well. And I didn't want my petals, you lose all your dimension if your petals are smashed down to the base of the card. So I just used, I decided to use 2 mini glue dots, and that just adds just that extra little dimension to the card. So there we have our thankful card. It says thankful, and then on the inside, I thank my God every time I remember you. So thanks for watching, and I hope this inspires you to make your own thank you notes. Have a great day.